You are using. $7 Where is it? There. Oh, nice. Very nice background. Nice background, Keelan. Hello, Keelan. Hello, Keelan.
Hi.
There you are.
Hi. Okay.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Ooh, hey, Scott.
Whoa,
What's up, dude?
Look at Scott. Multitasking. Please keep your hands on the wheel at all times. Where are you taking us, Scott? Taking us for a ride?
I am. Running a little bit late, so doing what I can.
Appreciate it, man. That's dedication. That is some serious dedication.
Razor still installed the app while driving. It's just nuts.
Well, you know, you're also revealing that you don't have a hands-free car yet. Wouldn't that be cool once we all are driving in the driverless cars? You can just sit back and conduct meetings.
That would be nice.
Sounds great.
Being somebody working on electric cars right now, I can tell you that's a few years out.
Yeah, there's a couple guys are doing. A couple guys are
doing what
doing
Elon Musk made.
Yeah, I'm not so sure how I feel about turning over the controls to Elon.
I can tell though, like around here especially, there's a lot of self-driving cars. I mean, obviously not 100% autonomous, but I can tell which ones like are. I can feel it. That probably sounds really weird and hippy-dippy-ish, but like I know when it's like one of the autonomous cars.
Oh, you can really?
Yeah.
There's quite a few up in LA too, right? I mean, you see a lot.
Yeah, they're all over here.
Really? I've not seen one here in Laguna.
Well, I'm in Laguna and Niguel, so I'm like off the freeway. A little different.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's see. The invitation went out. Scott is here. Thank you, Scott. What I would recommend
I'll be on in a second.
Okay, no problem. I see that you are on mute. I did get people replying saying they were going to be here. So, Keelan, why don't we just jump in and start the meeting, and then it is recording, just double checking, yes.
Okay.
And then at least we have a good, clean start. So let me welcome everybody for being here. We are halfway through our intentional mentorship program, and the feedback and the results have been pretty phenomenal. And even for some of you who I've talked to who have not even had your first mentoring session yet, you are giving us some really good feedback. So I'm grateful for that. There's a lot that we're learning. And remember, this is a beta test. We're still in the laboratory trying to figure out the impact of intentional mentoring. So as we get started, hello, JP. Tonight's going to be a fun night because we get to dive into the mindset of a mentor and who's better mind to jump into than Keelan that is going to lead us through the mindset of a mentor. So Keelan, take it away.
All right. Thank you, El President David. Thank you everyone for joining. So tonight, can I share my screen, David? Is there something you need to give me?
I'm sorry?
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, go for it. You have full control over the share screen feature.
Cool.
There you go.
Okay, I just put together I know PowerPoints are so like last century, but I'm visual. So
Sweet.
So, tonight we're going to go through intentional mentor program, and this is the mindset of a mentor. So really we're talking about anyone who wants to step into the position of becoming a mentor. These are kind of the items that will help you succeed in mentoring a mentee. And being a mentor doesn't mean you have to be a certain age or have certain credentials, if you will. We can use these tools and all learn from each other no matter what stage of life we're in. So I like to remind people of that, mostly because a lot of times I love watching kids play because they're so unrestricted, and I feel like we can all learn a lot from just watching them. Or I love talking to older people. I grew up with my great grandfather who was 92 when he passed away. So he was in my house. And as a little kid, I loved like hearing his stories, and I could just ask him anything. So with that kind of thought, we all have the ability to learn from each other. So if you're thinking of being a mentor, I highly recommend it. And if you're more resistant to it, then you definitely should do it. So that's my little speech about the mentoring. And tonight, the topics that I'm going to touch on, and David will jump in a couple of times as well, is we're going to talk about how to be a mentor. And a lot of times it's going to be it's all about the mentee, the person that you're working with. The art of listening, how to build trust, and then how this relationship can weave, not just through Toastmasters, but really it can spread beautifully and weave in and out of other facets of your life. I'm going to give you a meeting example because a lot of times I think sometimes we maybe get on a call, or I love to go have lunch. So a lot of times I'll meet my mentee for lunch, but how to stay on track and how to use our time the best way we can. And then just wrap up and we'll open it up for questions if anyone has any. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Cool.
Good.
So we're going to stay on this little agenda for a couple minutes. And first, I just want to talk about, it's all about the mentee. So again, as a mentor, we get to step into a role that will help the mentee build confidence in whatever they are looking for. So let's say I am mentoring a astrophysicist. I don't have to know about astrophysics. What I do have to know is what their dreams are, what they're guided by, and what they actually want to accomplish. And my job as a mentor is to be able to listen and be able to positively help that mentee, that astrophysicist, let's say, overcome stage frightness and be able to give their first speech within the time period that they have decided upon. So the mentor is really a champion for the mentee. The mentee has the opportunity to say, I want to give a TEDx speech someday. And the mentor can say, okay, well, let's work on that together. How would you like to make that happen? So it's really a gateway conversation, and it's allowing the mentee to drive that conversation. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
Cool. So in order to do that, we want to ask good questions. Open-ended questions, not yes or no questions. So, hey, astrophysicist, you want to give a TEDx speech? Where do you see yourself giving this TEDx speech? When do you see it? What are you going to be wearing? it can be all these kinds of open-ended questions to kind of get the mentee starting to believe in their own dream. And it's really just an exercise that you can go through on the first meeting with them. And really, it comes down to the art of listening. Asking some open-ended questions and then just listening to whatever it is they have to say. And an astrophysicist, I might not understand the math they're talking about, but as long as I can just follow along and champion them and support them in what they want, we'll get them to a TEDx speech. Maybe we don't know how, maybe it's not clear right away, but just by having someone on the mentee side and also having the mentee be brave enough to be able to talk about what that dream is half the battle, probably more than half, probably 70%. So again, it's, finding out all about the mentee and then the art of listening. And our next step is building trust. Because a lot of times when we're dreaming, it's hard to solidify that, it's hard to solidify those dreams and to actually say them out loud. Because when we say them out loud, the magic and that dreaming actually becomes something a little more solid. And then when we put those dreams down, let's say on a goal sheet or an action plan, then it's another step closer. So in this phase of it, we're actually working to build trust between the mentor and the mentee. And again, we build trust through just building confidence in each other. And I'm trying to think of the word. David, we talked about the other day. Why am I blanking on this?
Well, when you're building trust, especially in a relationship like this, you are asking, like you said, Keelan, you're asking the right questions, but you're opening up the door for that person to share something with you that perhaps they're not sharing with anyone else, and knowing that there will be no judgment, no criticism, but it allows you to feel this is a safe place, this culture of care that we're trying to create, where you feel that you're being heard and you're being understood, and then that person that you are sharing with, your mentor, is going to give you some insights and feedback, and also hold that conversation in confidence, unless you ask for permission. It's completely confidential.
Yeah.
Unless the mentor needs some insight from some other mentor or another source. So the confidentiality is where the trust is really built upon.
And thank you, David. And that was the word I was trying to look for, was confidential. So through, and maybe I should have reordered these actually, is really it's about building trust so that we can share and we can have a champion with us through that. And again, through these meetings and through this relationship building, we are able to set the parameters. A lot of times what happens is we start talking about, well, I want to do a TEDx talk, so that's why I'm in Toastmasters. Well, why are you in Toastmasters, and why do you want to give the talk? Well, I want to give the talk because I have a lot to say. What do you have to say? Well, I have dealt with alcoholism a lot in my life, so I want to use my stories as a voice in order to reach other people, and that's why I want to do a TEDx talk, right? So by asking all of those questions, you might have just thought, I just want to go do a TEDx talk. But really, there's underlying things that each human being has been through that they can share. And sometimes we crack it open. And as the mentor-mentee, we get to hold certain things in confidentiality. So that's that trust building. And it's awesome because it's a brave step. And it feels really great to have someone who 100% got your back, right? So once you build that trust and you start dreaming, and then making those dreams come true, pretty powerful.
Well, yeah, and well said, Keelan. And on top of all of that is this safe place that we've created at the club level,
Yeah.
And we talk about that as our tribe being this culture of care where it is safe. This is another level of safety in the one-on-one relationship because the trust has been established at the club level. Now we're saying, I trust you, JP, with my dreams. I trust that you're going to listen and you're going to ask me questions as my mentor to help me to pursue what that dream could look like if I were to pursue it. And then just as something that I know works really well in coaching, when you have established the trust in the relationship, there's times when the mentor will ask a question that might go a little bit deeper than you had hoped it would. And this is where the mentor would be able to, instead of just jumping through and asking the question, a good way to preface that is saying, JP, there's something that I see that I would like to share with you. Do we have enough trust in the trust account that I can take a withdrawal on in the trust to be able to ask you this question? Because I want to go a little bit deeper here and I want to establish that we have trust. And at this point, I would like to ask your permission to go deeper in the conversation. So can I take a withdrawal from the trust account? So now you're gaining agreement, and maybe the mentee doesn't want you to go there. And maybe the mentee says, no, I trust you, but not at that level. Okay, that's great. But it's best to know on the front end versus stepping into a question that might cause tension or distrust.
I love that analogy. I've never heard that. That's amazing. But that's a good reminder also, because as we are kind of going through these exercises, David's right. There could be things that pop up. But one thing that I love about our club specifically is the bravery I see every single meeting.
Yes.
Because we talk about some really heavy stuff in there. And every single week, there's at least one, there's usually several of these stories that really, we're being authentic about our histories. And being able to have a trusted space like that, just as David said, is really special. It's really awesome. Mm-hmm. So being able to trust in, your mentor, I'm talking to the mentees now, and trust in yourself as a mentor that you can go deeper with that person is a really powerful piece.
Yes.
And then weaving in the relationship. So this all goes in line with, when we walk into Toastmasters, we're walking out of our world, and all of us have our own worlds. We all have jobs. We all have families. There's all kinds of other pieces that are very important to our lives, and very important to the content that we're sharing, and also the way we're all listening to each other. So being a mentor allows us to really weave in these skills. So, being able to kind of, not just in a mentee, but also in our families and work and friends, the art of listening to your friend who's going through a hard time, the art of trust building in a relationship or with your children, the art of just, helping others dream can all be interwoven throughout all facets of your life. Any questions on any of that? Is that clear on kind of the idea?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Scott, I was going to ask Scott. Scott, I'm going to put you on the spot if that's okay, because I love what you and I were talking about when it came down to, you stepping into a mentor role and what some of your expectations were, because the mentor-mentee role, it means a lot of different things. And I think what Keelan is showing here, there is a kind of a bedrock or foundation to build a relationship, but what you talk about, the actual content of what you talk about is going to be different with every single person. So do you remember that conversation, Scott, we were having, and what you had hoped what your mentor, I guess, content or topics would be about?
To be honest, no, I don't remember having that conversation that much. I mean,
like I said, I've only talked a little bit with Ed so far, and haven't had a full like hour-long talk. I know we talked a little bit about it, just you and I, but I basically haven't gone that far with that.
Okay. Well,
sorry if I'm seeming like I'm
no,
spacing,
no.
but I just don't remember.
Let me refresh your memory.
Thank you.
What I heard you say was, I want to be part of the mentoring program selfishly, and this is my word, selfishly. You stepped into it so that you can have someone that could give you insight and perspective, not only in Toastmasters and probably very little about Toastmasters, but other areas of your life.
Yeah, basically I'm pursuing some new business things, and I just want to hear this from an impartial third party who would say, hey, I don't want criticism, but I want somebody I can bounce ideas off of, or say, kind of steer me in the right direction, see if I'm, kind of spinning out of control.
And Scott, I don't think that's selfish at all, because I talked about this in our last meeting, but I jumped at the chance to be VP of PR because I knew there were opportunities on what I'm going to do in that position, what I am doing in that position, that I can now use in my own business. So brilliant.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I wanted you to speak to that, Scott, because I love the fact that what I heard you say is, I want to tap into the experience and expertise of another person, someone I value, that will help me to think through and be a sounding board for what I'm doing in my personal and professional life. And Toastmasters is kind of the bridge to get you into that conversation.
That's exactly right. I mean, I really wanted somebody to, in particular professional life, just to look at, where, does this make sense? Does it seem way far off base? And I mean, I had enough of a conversation with that already to get an idea that he wasn't judgmental. He was really being very good as a mentor and listening to what I was saying. It's like, no, that doesn't sound too crazy or too big an idea to go after. It's like I could, make that happen.
Perfect. I love that, Keelan. And you and I talk a lot about this, about how the mentoring program is so much more than the Toastmasters path of becoming a better public speaker and getting through pathways. That's part of it, but it's such a small part.
I mean the Toastmasters path part of it, I feel like I just need to be a little more dedicated and, and get my advanced communicator, done, and get my, with a competent leader and those other things, finished. I haven't put a lot of priority on them, but I feel like I'm moving along, giving a speech every so often and doing a good job in Toastmasters. I really want more of a sounding board for professional work.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott.
And Scott, what's awesome about the mentor-mentee relationship is that this gives us as mentees the opportunity to get a little bit of validation in a very safe place, that your idea is not too big and that it's not too crazy.
Yeah. Well, I've had a couple, bad, creepy ones, but most of I'll tell you another day. There's a lot of stuff you do that I've been doing as far as face recognition and things, and then you have some ideas like, hey, you could point this out and find who this person is wherever they are in social networks. It's like, nah, that's a creepy idea. I just threw that away, right? So I know other people pursue that and made that into products, but it's just like, nah, I can't do that.
So let's sidebar for a second. This is a theme that I talk about a lot outside of Toastmasters, and I think about my inspirational minute sometimes. So just something for all of you to think about is that my life passion, I think all of you know by now, is my liberty thing. And really what it boils down to is trusting your inner voice. And that doesn't mean the one in your head necessarily. It means one in your gut or your heart. And being able to release that liberty within. Because each of us knows the answer to every single thing. It's just that we like to make up other alternatives that we don't. So there are no creepy, weird ideas, Scott. Now you know.
Well, there are some, believe me.
But you've seen the proof in the pudding, right?
Yeah,
Be kind to your brilliance.
When I was first looking at face recognition software, I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you could take your phone and put up and say, who is that person? How can I find out more about them? I thought, that's like so stalkerish. Nobody. it's like it could go out and search all everybody's, all your friends' Facebook accounts and their friends and so on, and find the person you're looking for. And I thought, that is creepy. So yeah.
Scott, you stole my idea, Scott.
Oh yeah.
You're living inside of my head.
Idea is so intricate today is that you can do that with plants. So think about faces compared to plants. I mean, you're onto something. So the next big idea, think about it. I don't think it's creepy, but I don't want to digress anymore.
Okay, sorry.
Just so that we went on Thursday. Just as a recap before we go into the meeting example, because I see Jamie and Lena have joined us. Those beautiful ladies. I'm glad you're here.
Hello.
Hey guys.
Mindset of a mentor, and number one is really all about the mentee. So it's just asking questions and really just talking about what the mentee would like to get out of the relationship. And it's not even about the relationship, it's really about what the mentee is looking for in goals. And then by doing that as a mentor, we get to exercise and learn the art of listening, because it's really just talking about, asking those open questions and listening and being a champion for that mentee. No matter how freaking crazy those ideas are, as a mentor, it's our responsibility to not judge. Even if the mentee is judging themselves, as a mentor, we get the opportunity to stand with them and not judge and help them move forward. And that goes in with building trust. So, as David mentioned, there's different levels that every mentee wants to go in whatever goal setting we have. Sometimes when you set a goal, it cracks open a level. But even like when you're writing a speech, like I'll write speeches sometimes, and like then I start writing about it instead of having it with a child, and all this stuff opens up. So as mentors, we get the honor of holding confidentiality in what the mentee is working towards through their goals. And again, all of us being in Toastmasters, we get to see bravery and really deep, authentic stories every week. And again, I thank you all for that. So with those different points, we then get to weave that relationship of not only mentor-mentee, but just the skills that we're building through listening and open-ended questions and really just championing for one another. We then get to weave that relationship and let it spread and ripple into other facets of our life. So that could be our family, our work, our friends.
Let me add to that real quick.
Thank you.
Okay, Keelan. So if you look at the agenda and all these points here, to put an exclamation on what you just said, how everything that we're doing in the mentorship, not only the mentor and mentee roles, is woven into every aspect of your life, in your relationships, at home, at work. In let's say you're prospecting for a new client. Well, you have now a skill set of listening and asking open-ended questions. Let's say that you're hiring somebody to be part of your team, or you're working on a team with a coworker. If you apply these basic, tactics of a mentor-mentee relationship, you are going to set yourself above and apart from everyone around you in a good way, that this can apply in every aspect of your life. And that's the part, I've been doing this for 15 years, so it's embedded in me. But I have such a desire for each and every one of you to show up, and just, even if nothing profound happens in a mentoring session, and you just show up for the session and you said, wow, I didn't really do anything the last 2 weeks. It's just been going through the motions. The fact that you showed up and put yourself in a position to learn from a mentor, you're doing much more than most people. So I'm looking for different ways to help our members to see the value, not just to become a better public speaker, but the value to apply these skills of a mentor and a mentee in every aspect of your life. And I think, Keelan, what you've laid out here, as I'm looking through the list, thinking, yeah, when you meet with somebody, the first thing it's about listening to them. So the art of listening, and you've heard me say this before, be quick to listen and slow to speak, which establishes trust. And then when you establish the trust and you put your focus on the person and you say, I truly care about you, you are important. Thank you for allowing me to spend this time with you and draw out of you the things that you want, not that what I want for you, but it's what you want. And based upon the things that I've heard you say, I want to help you to achieve them. So that way you can not only learn a new skill set, but you can grow as a speaker, a leader, as a human being to be able to have the impact that you want to. Because let's face it, everyone that's in Toastmasters, everyone comes for a reason. And the common reason that everybody, there's a lot of different reasons, but there's one common reason that we all have, and is we all want to grow ourselves. We walked in the room at Toastmasters. We signed up for Toastmasters because we all want to grow and learn. And that looks a lot different to everybody, but that's the one thing we have in common. So we, as mentors and even mentees, are saying, let's create this optimal environment for growth acceleration in the intentional mentorship program. So,
do you have a question?
A question?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is Dane on this call?
No.
No. Okay. Quick question, and it's on my behalf and on Dane's behalf, I guess, also a little bit. So Dane and I talked, and you all know Dane. He always wants the best for people, and he's going really fast. And what if you work with a mentee, whether it's in a mentoring program or in the real world, and you see where they can go, you see their potential, and you see where they are right now, and maybe they're stuck or something's holding them back. And how do you have any tips, David, for coaching of when you're really ambitious for them and you see their light and you see how far they can go, to deliver it or to be present with them without, putting too much pressure on, which might feel to them that where they are is not okay, just because you're too ambitious for them in your own mind?
Great question. And this happens all the time, Lena. And I've talked about this before. In coaching, there's non-directive coaching and directive coaching. Non-directive coaching is asking questions. And I think we talked about this before, Lena, where we as coaches will try and draw out of you what it is you want to do. But sometimes there's people that want directive coaching that say, listen, I hired you because I don't know what it is I want to do. And I want to tap into your expertise and your wisdom and experience to help me get there. But what happens is when people are either slowing down or disengaging or not moving forward or taking action, and that's what I'm hearing you say is, how do you get people either motivated or unstuck or unblocked to move forward when they are either unable to see where they are now to move forward, right? How do you get them to move forward either quicker or take bigger steps, and you see something in them that they can't see? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Not quite. I meant it's mainly from a relational perspective, or energetically, like when you're present with them. And you know how Dane, like, he wants to go so far with people, he wants to bring out the most, or someone like me who's maybe very critical and like I've put a lot of myself and maybe also on others. How can you mitigate that to, when you're very ambitious for yourself and others, to give them a safe space, though, that just because you might see a lot of things, they don't feel like it's not okay where they are right now. And I think it's more like a rapport relationship thing. That makes sense. Okay,
let me repeat back what I'm hearing you say before I answer it. So in a relationship, using Dane as an example, Dane is someone who's very energetic, ambitious, and he wants to move forward and change the world.
Yeah.
And then there's other people around him that may not have that same ambition or drive or even vision to want to move either at that pace or harness the energy to move forward at all. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or not in the same pace necessarily.
Or not at the same pace. Mm-hmm. Well, that's where the coach or the mentor needs to take a step back and ask and understand the behavior style, the communication style of the person that you're mentoring, and then try and uncover what their blocks are. But even before you uncover what their blocks are or their self-limiting beliefs, is to help them to see what they could be and gain agreement that they can be more motivated, or they can be highly more effective. But you can't take somebody to a place of growth unless they are wanting growth. If somebody shows up for a mentoring session and they're not driven and committed to want to grow and put the work in, it's not going to happen. Like, perfect example, people want to have the six packs and, you know, the rock star body. It's pretty simple. Go to the gym and eat well. How many people are committed to going to the gym and eating well? Well, all you have to do is look at the results. The people that have a cut body and are hyper energetic are the ones that are committed to growing and developing themselves. And it's the same with mentoring and coaching. If the person says they want to change and they want to grow, if they're not showing up, they don't want it that badly in this context. Doesn't mean that they don't want it, but I mean, because there's a lot of people in our club that aren't taking advantage of the mentorship program. It's not because I don't believe it's because they don't want to grow. They either are A, growing and developing themselves elsewhere, or B, have never experienced this one-on-one intentional mentoring, so they have no context. Therefore, they're not willing to exchange the time that it takes to mentor to be able to grow. So those are a couple of ideas. I love, Keelan, to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's very representative in another program I'm working in right now. And as mentors, you know, it's not for us to judge, I guess, is the biggest lesson learned. And, you know, I see so much magic in every person I meet. But I personally have to be careful with, you know, being like, wow, you know, you could be better. And the person's like, well, I'm fine. I'm great already. Like, what are you talking about? Like, why do you want to, like, I'm not broken. So when we have that, it is what David said. We need to just take a step back and really delicately champion for whatever the person wants at that time. And usually what's happening is there's a resistance because there is something that they want and they're just not ready to necessarily change it or make it happen. Because as I started, and you missed it, Lena, but as I started, when I talked about goal setting and kind of dreaming, it's scary when we make a dream and actually put it down on paper or say it out loud to another person, because it takes it one step closer to actually becoming reality. And allowing that person to step into whatever greatness they have seen. I mean, we can, and that's the other thing, is that the great thing about a mentor and having close relationships with people is that we can see some of the gaps, some of the obstacles that maybe you guys can all see a gap or obstacle that I fight every day that I might not see. When we build trust and we can kind of tap into whatever that mentee or wants to move forward in little by little, you know, we get to stand with that person and gently and delicately kind of help guide them through those obstacles that maybe they can't see. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah, and just put a last statement there. It takes work, and a lot of people want the microwave transformation. And, you know, let's face it, you know, I want to grow and I want to become a better leader and communicator, but sometimes I don't want to put the time and effort in. Like anything, it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes work with everything else that we talked about. But great question, Lena. Thank you.
Also, just at the end, we can push it if you have at the end like a minute. I don't want to hold your presentation up, but another question would also be, how do you deal if you're a mentor or mentee, or mentor, I guess, when there's ambivalence or incongruency? So a person says, yes, I want to change the world, I want to do this. They have really big ambitions and you can feel the passion, but at the same time, no behavior is congruent with that. But feel free to reserve that just for the time at the end.
Well, actually, the question takes us into our next slide.
Good.
So, what's really important about So we're human beings, emotions are roller coasters. We go up and we have lunch and we get high off of the food and we make all these plans, and then we walk away and we go home. We lose that sugar high, let's say. And as mentors, what we get to step into is keeping that excitement alive. And by doing that, we keep communication with the mentee. And that's one of the things is that when I say we get to be champions as a mentor, I mean literally a champion, right? We are hurrah, hurrah cheerleader. So helping encourage the mentee, quote unquote, to keep on their goals is really important because it's a partnership. And one of the ways to do that is to consistently meet. And this meeting agenda is just one idea. This is one I put together. David, I think, does his meetings a little differently. But for this, I like to meet people in person at least once, unless it's completely, unless they're in like freaking Ireland or something. Or you can have a conference call, but if you're going to have a conference call, I highly advise using face-to-face. It just adds another level of connection, basically. And then you can start the conversation on a high. What are your victories from last time we talked? Or what are your victories in life right now, if it's your first time? And then you can talk about challenges. What kind of things are stopping you from getting to, the dreams that you want to get to? And then what growth have you seen since the last time we talked, right? So that ambivalence that maybe sometimes we run into, we're losing steam, really. So we want to just kind of tap back into that excitement that we first had, anything possible. We're children on the playground again, making a castle. And then, within that conference call, we can talk about, well, what's your hot topic? What's the thing on your mind right now or in your heart? What is cooking up in his mind right now? What's his hot topic? And then through that, you can talk about next steps. So, as community members, as family members, as mentors, we get to help take responsibility in everything that we experience. And that responsibility also goes with any ambivalence that we would experience from a friend or a family member or a mentee, is that we get to, champion for them again. Does that help answer your question, Lena? You're on mute.
I'm muting myself. I guess my question is also related to kind of a chronic long-term ambivalence. So say you have someone who's 40 years old and for 20 years they've been telling themselves, I really want to do this. And they've always like words, but no action to back it up. And now they come to a mentor and mentee, and you as a mentor, you can see the pattern recognition, and it's something that's deeply ingrained. This is not just a project that they've decided 2 months ago. This is a pattern that they want to break, and the main problem is incongruency. How do you best deal with that as a mentor without obviously, going into Freudian psychology or anything like that?
Well, I have an idea, and then I'll let David go, actually professional. But for me, if you see a same cycle that's happening, you want to get that person or yourself too, because I catch myself in cycles. You want to break out of that cycle. So if you put your pants on with the leg is your left leg every single day, break out of that cycle and put your pants on with your right leg, right? So if you're doing the same thing and you're working on the same thing, take that idea and do something else. Give it to somebody else. Or, write a poem backwards. Like whatever it is, do it differently. And that usually will break and then kind of get you on get you off the track a little bit to level up.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think that not only that, break the pattern. Because if you guys all know and heard the saying, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you expect different results, you're insane. So I'm going to come back to you, Lena, and ask you, give a specific example of that so that I can give you a specific answer, because this is really good. Give me an example of someone, a pattern. What is this so-called person doing over and over again and expecting different results?
So let's say they want to do projects that are more bigger cause, humanitarian,
Okay.
and in their field of work, but instead they go for more commercial works and also kind of more at the on a not so ambitious pace, but kind of like a medium pace, and they kind of never tap into that. And on top, I'm going to do humanitarian stuff, which really motivates me.
Okay.
Well, I say really motivates me, but you never get into that sphere because you say, it's all about securing my bases, and even that's struggling.
Right. So what I would do is I'd go into just a lot of questions. And before coming up with solutions, I would start asking, what's the why? And going back to Simon Sinek, right? Why is it that you want to do something humanitarian? How will it make you feel? What are the outcomes? Picture yourself doing that. What will your life look like once you're doing these things that you feel are humanitarian, that are making a difference in the world? And once you can help them to see clearly what that is, then you can start saying, okay, what do you think it's going to take to get you there? Because right now, if you're not living out that dream, let's look at what steps do you think it would take to get there? Then you start looking at, okay, what's the vehicle? Do you create this organization, or is it an organization that already exists? So let's look at what would it take to create an organization like that, or let's look at other organizations that exist like that you can either learn from or jump in the vehicle to get there. Then you start looking at, okay, what are you doing now in your current job? What is it going to take? If you really feel, can you do both? Can you run in this current career and then create this other passion project at the same time? So you just start asking the questions, and you help them to see what their life could look like once they're doing that. And then you start working backwards and looking at, okay, what would it take to make that a reality? And then it could be they either have the skill sets and the resources, or they don't. And if they don't have the skill set or the resources, then find somebody who does. And then it comes back to their why. Why do you want to do this? Because if you're not connected to the why, it's not going to be enough to get you passionate and even persistent to pursue it. So to summarize it, it's just helping them to understand what it would look like to live out that dream by you as the mentor asking the right questions to help them picture themselves there, and then start asking the questions on what would it take to make that a reality. And you'll discover, based on your experience on the answers that they give you, whether or not they have a realistic opportunity to make that a reality. And that's where the trust comes in, and say, listen, based on what I'm hearing you say, and based on your past experience and where you're at today, I don't know if that's a possibility. Maybe you should consider something else. And that's where the directive coach would come in and say, do I have enough trust in the trust account to take a withdrawal based on what I'm hearing you say? I don't think that's the best move for you in your career. And that's that level of trust. I wouldn't say that in the first couple sessions. I wouldn't even say that in the first couple months, because I have clients that I've been with for 8-9 years, and you see patterns after a year. And if someone came to me and said they want to do something that is outside of what their natural skill sets are, I would not be a good coach if I said, yeah, go for it, I think you can do it, even though deep down I know that's probably not the best thing for them.
I always think everything's possible for everyone who really wants something. So I don't know.
But then you have to look at the track record, and look at their skill set, look at their track record, look at their current reality. And, I believe I'm the same way. I believe anything is possible, but I also know that I've been around long enough to know that anything is possible, but that's also based upon your skill set and based upon your resources and your experience.
Yeah.
And that just comes with experience of having hours in the coaches or mentors chairs to be able to see different scenarios, and just look at how people are wired. I would not put, not everybody's meant to be in the number one chair. You guys have probably heard that before. Not everybody has the skill set to be a first chair CEO of a company. If somebody came to me and they didn't have the experience or even the personality or the behavior style to be a number one chair, I would tell them, you're better off being number 4, number 5 in the company, not number 1. And that's being a champion for them. But it's also saying, listen, I want you to succeed. If I said, yeah, go for it, anything's possible, I would be misleading that. So did that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So David, do you think you would go about kind of asking questions to get them to get to that conclusion on their own?
Yes, 100%. If they can't get there, Scott, because like Keelan said, we all have
run the risk of crushing their ideas or where they want to go, even though you can see that's like he's not going to make it there.
Absolutely.
But you don't want to destroy the passion that they have. That maybe they could be another spot that they could still get some of the way with other people's help. Right.
100%. But that takes time to get to that conversation, Scott. That was the point, that I would not have that conversation with someone that I just met or that I didn't know really well. I would have to know that person based upon experience and time with them to be able to come to that conclusion. But ultimately, you want them to come to that conclusion.
I also think I want to kind of just give a little bit of context to what I said. I think everything's possible. I think everything's possible for certain personality types who just go for it. Because if someone really, really wants to do something and has, let's say, the simple skill set of figuring things out, a lot of things are really not impossible. But someone can have a skill set but not I'm going to try everything, and then I agree with you, then I would come to similar conclusions. Or if there's just no resources at all, that's also a fact. It depends on the mindset, like you said, and the personality type a lot.
Right. And a great example, Lena, of this is there's so many young kids that want to be like me. I want to be a professional basketball player. Guess what? I don't have the talent. I wanted to be a professional tennis player until I played Pete Sampras and realized, okay, that guy is a great tennis player. I took it as far as I could. I told everybody I want to be a professional tennis player.
Yeah,
listen, Makala, if you're being beat by a 15-year-old kid that is not in his prime yet, you probably should hang it up.
Yeah.
So I think that is, sometimes, especially in this day and age, we tell especially our kids, oh, you can do anything. You can be anything you want. I don't want to crush their dreams, but I also want to point them in the right direction and be their biggest champion to help them succeed at what they're doing and help them discover, go out there and play tennis if you want to be a pro tennis player. See how far you can go.
Absolutely.
So, sorry, Keelan, to kind of hijack the time there, but that was a great question.
No, it's fine. You didn't hijack the time. It's actually hijacking your time. So that's on that note. Well, let's just recap what I went over, and then we can go to
Okay, your mic is a little ways from your mouth or something. I can't quite hear you.
Yeah, you're.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Thank you.
Wait. Yeah. Let me turn. Actually, can you hear it now?
There we go. Yeah, when you're away from the microphone, you were breaking up, but that's perfect.
Okay. So just in recap, really quickly, mindset of a mentor, all about the mentee, championing for what they are wanting to accomplish, the art of listening to them. And sometimes it's hard. Your questions and examples are really important because sometimes we see such greatness and we want to push that greatness out of the person, and really it's for us just to allow them to discover that, like their own treasure hunt. And then that we do that through trust building, and then we can weave the relationship into the ripple effect of outside of that relationship into other facets of our lives. And then we talked about the meeting example, and any other questions?
That's great. Thank you, Keelan, for taking us through this. This could be a full day seminar, and you did it in 45 minutes. So thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. So yeah, any other questions? Lena, great questions. Thank you. But any other questions you guys want to bring to Keelan or I?
Okay.
Good so far.
Maybe what makes sense for the mentor program, like some of the good questions, like what do you do if you hit this as a mentor, if you hit that as a mentor, like almost like a FAQ could be good for us to collect maybe in a collective shared doc or something like that.
You know what? Yeah, I have a list of 99 excellent coaching questions. I should post that because there is a list of questions in different categories. So let's do that. But let's put our mentees on the spot because we have 2 mentees right now. Actually 3. Jeannie's with us too. Let's put them on and let's ask them to put some questions that you might want your mentors to ask you, or give us some feedback from the mentees chair on things that you think have been helpful and even can be even more helpful as a mentee. So Jeannie, JP, let's start with one of you. Would you mind sharing from the mentees chair?
Yeah, I'll go first. Hi guys. Sorry, I was a little late to the presentation, but I really liked the whole thing about, you know, constructive criticism and opening up to your mentor. But it's like one of the biggest reasons why I joined Toastmasters was so that I could actually get like good constructive criticism because I want to improve. I mean, like I look at like all the good things people say about me, but I'm more like I want to obsess over the things that aren't positive so I can improve. And I think it's just I think Toastmasters has allowed me to do that. But if I had to say things that I think that need to be improved on would be just maybe more insight to like why like there's certain negatives about not only like your speech but also like your goals in life. So if there's a negative, I kind of want to like talk about more why that is or kind of work my way around it.
Okay.
You mean when there's an evaluation?
Sorry?
Sorry, you mean when you give a speech and there's an evaluation?
Yeah, but it's like I see a lot of positive comments and like I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm just saying like, you know, I also want to focus on my negatives. So I think also hearing like negatives as well, like is a good thing.
Constructive criticism, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they're growth points, right? Because there's even there's studies that show that there's leaders that when they focus on their weaknesses versus their strengths, and Scott, you could probably speak into this because you've been in leadership for a while, I believe, that if you focus more on your weaknesses versus on your strengths, it diminishes your strengths. So the mindset could be, okay, let's look at your strengths and build on those and be aware of your weaknesses and know that they exist, and then say, okay, those weaknesses are there. And if it's a weakness that you want to grow and develop to make you a better and become a strength, yes. But what I'm hearing you say, JP, and I want to make sure I'm clear, is you want, even this is for me as your mentor as well, is don't just focus on the positives, but look at the growth points or even some blind spots to help you improve.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scott, and Keelan,
it was just funny to hear JP say that because I was thinking about evaluating his last speech, and probably the most negative thing I said was you should trust your instincts more because I think they're right.
But I told you today, Scott.
What's that?
I told you the same thing today.
Yeah, I just thought that that was probably one of the bigger things there. That it's like, what should I do? It's like, go, believe in yourself more, and it'll flow naturally because what you're doing was very good. But on I guess I'm not quite sure if I agree with you, David, on the idea of just working on what you're good at. I mean, one of the reasons I joined Toastmasters was so I could become more rounded as far as being able to be a public speaker and not be strictly a technical person. Because I was already like an uber technical guy, and that was what I had been most of my life. And so I was trying to round things out a bit because it's like the best idea in the world not shared is not worth much. Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, I was trying to address that. So I don't know. I mean, it is.
There's also
it's nice if you can take that, some quality of yourself and bring it to an 11 rather than just I'm really high up there, but like get it to the next level. Which is nice, but
there's also a third option. Instead of just focusing on your weaknesses or strength, and I say that from a personal perspective, there's also a third option where adjusting your environment or the circumstances where you are in currently to fit more of your strengths or your natural gifts can also be a uber booster.
Here's the thing, guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to address, and this is just my style, and I think all of you have seen me operate enough times that I like getting criticism. I ask for it, I crave it, and I do give it. And when I do give criticism, like when I gave the evaluation for David's speech last week, it's not easy to give feedback that may not be favorable. It's not easy to go for a balance of negative and positive. However, growth happens when we do authentically share our experiences. So my problem is sometimes I'm a little too aggressive in my feedback, right? But I think it's also a delicate balance. So in my operating system, I like it when people say, you swear too much, you're maybe a little over the top, because these are delicate things that we actually have come to Toastmasters to learn. I say, probably 1,500 times a day.
Right. Well, I think that's great, but yeah, I agree 100% with what you guys are saying, but I think what's happening, we're talking about feedback and we're talking about, which I think is, which we all need. That's why we're in Toastmasters, is we want the feedback. We want to become more effective communicators and speakers and being able to be effective in how we communicate. When you look at weaknesses, going back to JP's point, is look at the areas that you can grow in. I don't think what we're talking about here is weaknesses, because we're all communicators. And I think that if we're saying that we are all wanting to become more effective communicators, bring it on. And that's what we're saying. But to say that when you look at somebody's strength, because I think we could all say that everyone has a different strength within Toastmasters, look at the weakness, point it out and say, okay, here's a weakness in you. How will that, if you improve that weakness, how will that benefit your life? And if that will benefit your life, then dig deep into it. But if you're always looking for the weaknesses, and that's what, JP, you and I can talk about this more, is know what the weakness is, but then if that weakness is not going to serve you, then don't spend any time on it. But if the weakness is going to serve you and make you a better communicator, then let's go down deeper and help you make that weakness a strength. But across the board, I don't think any of us are saying that all of us are weak communicators. The fact that we're here now means that it's not a weakness, it is a skill set that we all have, that we want to become better. Therefore, bring on as much feedback as possible to sharpen our communication skills. So I just want to make that point of clarification, that giving feedback on speeches and even in mentoring sessions is important, but then also identifying what the weaknesses and the strengths are, because they're completely different than just getting feedback in speeches. And that could be a whole nother training in itself right there, Keelan, as we look at future calls, is to what is the best feedback to give, and how do you give a good evaluation, so that way it doesn't come across as criticism or pointing out a person's weakness, because if we do that to the wrong person, they will walk away and not want to come back. But JP, great question, and I think that there's definitely a lot here when it comes to pouring into the strengths and then identifying the weaknesses and recognizing, do I need to strengthen that weakness to add to the quiver of strengths? And you and I, why don't we talk about that in our next conversation, in our next mentoring sessions, and maybe I can help you point out and help you draw out what those weaknesses are in you that you would like to get sharp. Maybe some of them you do need to sharpen, maybe some you don't. Does that make sense, JP?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think kind of going back to the whole conversation thing, I think it's like, only you can only be a good mentor if your mentee wants to be a better person. Like,
yes,
if you have a mentee that's not really willing or not really fully committed, like your mentee is not going to be able to like take criticism as well as, let's say, a mentee that really, really wants to learn. I think at the end of the day, it really depends how much the mentee is going to put in. That's how effective the mentor is going to be.
100%.
And that's why you want to have those open-ended questions in the beginning to find out what the mentee's level of commitment and what their goals are. If I came in and said, hey, David, my goal as your mentee is to stop saying in the next 90 days, that's it. That's my dream. That's my goal. Even though he says, oh my God, you can do a TED Talk. I'm like, I just want to learn this talk.
Exactly.
So that's where we get to make our own magic as mentors.
Yeah. And
sorry. Continue.
That's a great way to end it, Keelan. Thank you for that, because what you just said is at the core of a mentor-mentee relationship. Your very first line, it's not about the mentor, it's all about the mentee. It's all about, what's that?
Before we leave, I want to make sure that Jeannie has a chance to weigh in here too.
Keelan, you're so funny.
Sorry.
Speaking of which.
Okay, perfect. Jeannie, you can end.
Okay. Yeah, sorry guys. I was in grocery shopping mode.
No worries.
So it took me a minute to like readjust. So as far as the mentorship meetings, great. I mean, I really don't have any feedback. I feel like it's very balanced, and we have a very cohesive flow. The only feedback I have in general, not about anyone specific, but just in general, when we're having these meetings on this platform, one thing I've been sensitive to, not necessarily for me, but just in general for everybody, is I know we're not going to specifically be discussing what is discussed in those mentorship meetings, but even in a roundabout way, sometimes it can be implicit, like, maybe some people are mentoring, 5 people, and based on our interactions in the meetings, we might know, oh, that could be this person or that could be that person. Not that anyone's thinking that, but just for that, to keep retaining that trust. I just think that's really important in this platform, because we're all, whoever's on the call is also hearing things that they may be making assumptions about or whatever, which, isn't that big of a deal, but it's just something that I thought of, and I wanted to pass it along in case that could be present for anyone.
That's good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome.
Back to bullet 3 of trust building.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that is a great insight and great feedback. Thank you for it. And again, I think we have 3 more mentor trainings, and then it's over. And so thankful for Keelan putting the time in preparing the last 2 mentor sessions. So thank you, Keelan. I know we're over time here. I'm not going to ask any other questions, but thank you all for your feedback. And then 2 weeks from today, we'll be back together, and we hope to see you all tomorrow night at the big.
We will see you all tomorrow night.
We will see. I love Keelan's affirmation. We will see you all tomorrow.
Yeah.
Got it.
I will see you.
I will see you all. So thank you again, Keelan, and thank you all for being here tonight. And this is recorded, and all the others, if you have not jumped on yet and watched all the other recordings, they have been documented for the history book. So thank you all.
And they're fun. So go back and
They
watch.
are fun. Go play in the play box of these training sessions. So, all right, you guys, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you too.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, guys. Bye-bye.
Night.